Hello and welcome to GoRacing.ie's preview of one of the most prestigious days in the Irish racing calendar, Hennessy Chase Day, which takes place at Leopardstown next Saturday, the 9th of February. I'm Dennis Kirwan, and joining me to look ahead to one of the great meetings of the National Hunt season with 4 Grade 1s on the same day, and also to run the rule on many of our Cheltenham prospects, is one of the all-time great jockeys, Ruby Walsh. I'm also joined by our regular racing analysts Don McLean and Dave Keena, and by Kieran Conroy, Commercial Manager of Leopardstown. Ruby, you've won the Hennessy on 2 occasions in the past. You won on Neptune Collage in 2009. He, of course, went on to win last year's Grand National, and on Kellis Spree last year. Now, he hasn't run since the race last year, and, he'd be up against it, but he's got his chance.
Yeah, he is. He's in good form. He hasn't had a run this year, which probably will make it quite difficult against the likes of Fleming Star and Sir de Champs, considering how the fitness edge they'll have over him. They're battle hardened at this stage of the season, but he's been working really well, Kellis Spree. He looks well. He won the race really well last year, and I think the intention is to run him anyway.
Yes, this year's renewal of the Hennessy Chase looks like a rerun of the Lexus Chase at Christmas, which was one of the best races you're ever likely to see. And before we talk to Ruby about his brilliantly timed ride on Tidal Bay to snatch victory in the dying strides, let's have a listen back to the closing stages of a truly memorable contest.
Fleming Star leads to the final fence in the Lexus from First Lieutenant in second. In third is Sir Deschamps and 4 Tidal Bay. They got 200 yards to go. It's Fleming Star. First Lieutenant now on the near side comes to challenge. Fleming Star is battling back. They're racing to the final 100 yards. First Lieutenant on the near side. On the far side, Fleming Star. Tidal Bay goes between them. Sir Deschamps the near side. And Tidal Bay is running for Paul Nicholls and Andrea Graham Wiley.
Ruby, that really was a dramatic Lexus Chase and probably one of the best finishes you've ever ridden.
It was when you get up. Not so sure the other lads felt the same, but no, look, it was a good race, and it was the way I suppose Grade 1 races should be run. It was end to end. It was a good gallop. I suppose the result changed a couple of times from the home turn to the winning post, but it was a true test, and it was a good contest, and thankfully Tidal Bay put his head in front where it mattered on the line. But did it reveal Gold Cup answers or Hennessy Gold Cup answers even? I don't know. Obviously Fleming Star and Sir de Champs will reoppose on Saturday. Whether Tidal Bay will or not is still up in the air, and I can't imagine Paul Nicholls making a decision of that until the last hour. But it was a cracking race, and I think it thrilled the crowd in Leopardstown anyway. It
certainly did. As you say yourself, it probably raised as many questions as provided answers, Ruby. Certainly the Fleming Star debate, did he see out the 3 miles or not? What's your view on that? And do you think maybe he might be ridden differently in the Hennessy Chase?
I don't know. I mean, I suppose, in all equations, if you time your challenge to be leading going to the last, if you're on a good enough horse, you'll win. And that's pretty much what Andrew Lynch did. He arrived travelling very well off the bend. He let him run 100 yards before the last. He quickened up to go and win his race, but for my money he got empty when he got to the last. It was this by far his slowest jump. He landed a bit flat footed. Alright, he battled back again when First Lieutenant joined him, but you'd have to say First Lieutenant was going to win that argument until Tidal Bay snipped between them. But you'd like to see a true Gold Cup horse go ping the last and gallop all the way to the line in Leopardstown. You saw it many times in the past with Hennessy winners. The ones that get a bit empty halfway up the run in Leopardstown, while they still might win the Hennessy, they tend not to get home over 3 1/4 in Cheltenham.
Yeah, it is a bit of a conundrum, Don, for the connections of Fleming Star, but as Ruby said, he certainly didn't appear to get the 3 miles in Leopardstown, so he's hardly likely to get 3 miles 2 up a stiff finish in Cheltenham.
No, I think the Hennessy's one question and Cheltenham's a different question entirely. As Ruby said, it's 3 1/4. It's 3 miles 2.5 furlongs actually at Cheltenham, up a hill. And there's a hill at Leopardstown, but it's not as stiff as the hill at Cheltenham. And they probably have 2 options with Fleming Star. Either, as I see it, probably either ride him in behind and try and restrain him and conserve his energy on Saturday, or else allow him stride along in front and let him. He seems to settle well in front. So maybe if Andrew Lynch let him stride a wee bit more, his jumping is superb. He could use his jumping and he might settle a wee bit more in front and therefore last longer. But it's a tough one. He's got so much pace and so much speed and he jumps so quickly that it's probable that 3 miles isn't his optimum trip. Tidal Bay, as you said, Dennis, it was an unbelievable ride by Ruby, even in the last strides, to not to come out wide off the rail. He stayed in the rail and he went between horses instead of coming out to the near side. Tidal Bay's had a bit of a setback, and hopefully he will get there on Saturday, because it'd be great to see the 3 of them back. And then of course you got Sir Deschamps. No, it's a fantastic racing prospect.
Personally, I was a little bit disappointed that Tidal Bay had won, because we had thought that Fleming Star and Sir Deschamps were significantly better than Tidal Bay. And that's a personal view. You know, at 12 years of age, you wouldn't have thought that Tidal Bay would be good enough to be a Gold Cup contender. But at the same time, he ran such a race in the Hennessy, and he's a much improved horse since he got a wind operation as well. You know, and on his day, he was a very good horse for Howard Johnson as well. But personally, I was a little bit disappointed that he turned over either or. You know, if either Sur de Champs or Fleming Star had won the Lexus, we'd be going into the Hennessy, you know, thinking that maybe we have a Gold Cup contender. At the moment, the jury's out as to whether or not we do have. Sur de Champs' jumping was a little bit iffy in the Lexus, and if he had jumped better, he may have won. But, you know, Tidal Bay won the race on the day. Sur de Champs did stay very well, and you'd imagine he will stay further than 3 miles. But Willie's record is so good in this race. You know, if I was to pick one of the Irish horses at the moment, I'd sooner go for Sur de Champs, on the basis that if he tidies up his jumping, I'd say he'll outstay Fleming Star and possibly beat Tidal Bay at the weekend. Ruby, if you rode Fleming Star, you know, the perception was that he was very keen, and he was, you know, he maybe wanted to get on a little bit. And can you use up an awful lot of energy, and can a horse expend a lot of energy when he is keen, and when he, you know, it appears that he wants to go faster than the jockey wants to?
Oh yeah, it's a nightmare, especially going 3 miles. But so too is exuberant jumping. People say maybe they should let him gallop along and use his jumping. You start standing outside the wings at the first 7 or 8 in the 3 mile chase, you're using up energy you don't want to use up either. I don't know, you're probably not asking the right fella. If I'd ridden Fleming Star, I'd probably walked him out stone last and produced him at the back of the last. But that'd just be my style of doing it. To me, he was the fastest horse in the race. I wouldn't have been riding him for stamina, but that probably wouldn't have worked either. To me, it was only sheer class that got Fleming Star from the back of the last to the line within a length of the others. He'd run out of stamina, he'd run out of puff. It was just sheer natural ability and class that carried him that close to the others at the winning post.
Well, it's a fascinating prospect if they all pitch up again for the Hennessy. Kieran, in terms of the quality of the racing, Hennessy Day is one of the biggest days in the Irish racing calendar, and it's also a big day in the Style Stakes.
Yes, Dennis, it's a fantastic, I suppose, both sporting and social occasion. We're very fortunate at Leopardstown to have Hennessy on board. It's one of the longest running sports sponsorships, not just in racing, but in sport. This is over 20 years. So much so now it's referred to, something like the Lexus is referred to as the Hennessy, as the lads have said. We 4 Grade 1 races on the day, the Spring Hurdle, Delight, the Dr. PJ Moriarty and Hennessy Gold Cup. So I think after the Lexus at Christmas and in the run up to Cheltenham, this year's race and this year's renewal is very eagerly anticipated. And as you mentioned, as well as the racing element, Hennessy put a lot of effort into the social element. And there'll be some fantastic fashion and style, hopefully, on view this year, with international supermodel Erin O'Connor flying in from New York to judge the Hennessy Best Dressed Lady competition, which has a €7,000 prize value this year from the Design Centre. So plenty to look forward to at Leopardstown. Okay, so we've got the 2-legged thoroughbreds as well as the 4-legged ones. Okay, that's the end of our first part of our Hennessy Chase preview. Join us for part 2 when we'll have a chat with Ruby about the Great Hurricane Fly.